Call a meeting to order. Minutes from the previous meeting. Any questions, corrections? I hear a motion to,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes passed.
We have our work session. Last month, we had discussed flavored tobacco products and decided to have it as a official work session item. So before you tonight, we have some information in your packet for discussion to talk about possibly including a ban on flavored tobacco products. In your packet, I have given you some information. We have, yep, you're on the right page there, to show that e-cigarette use is up to 20.8% in high school students from a 2018 survey. Attached also to that is a list of towns in Massachusetts that restrict flavored tobacco products to only establishments that are adult only, so not the retail outlets like the Cumberland Farms and gas stations. They're only allowed to be sold at adult only tobacco shops like smoke shops. And then finally, the longer document is sample regulations from the state that they tried to have us adopt in its entirety in 2016. And as a board, you all chose to adopt a lot of it, but not the flavor prohibitions and not the number of permits allowed in the town. And also there's a part in here about number of feet, within 500 feet of a school, which doesn't apply to us anyway, but you didn't approve that as part of the updated tobacco control regulations that were updated in end of 16, beginning of 17. And I believe we have a student here, if you want to come up and sit at the table and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Drew Ryan. Since we last met with you, we have continued to work on our project. We stand behind our original proposal to ban the sale of all flavored tobacco products. In Harwich, we think this will have the greatest positive impact on reducing the availability of vape products to minors. At the last meeting, we were asked some questions about vaping at our school. We conducted a survey that reached half of our student body and found that 35% of our school has tried vaping and half of those are regular users. Of those who vape, most get their products from friends and spend between $10 to $40 per week. 80% of students have seen vaping in school and half have avoided certain bathrooms because of it. In our class, there was some discussion of menthol, wintergreen, and mint, as they are seen as more neutral flavors. We believe this regulation should apply to all flavors, including menthol, wintergreen, and mint. These are popular vape flavors, and exempting this would allow stores to continue to carry them. Menthol is especially popular in cigarettes, so restricting this can have a positive impact on reducing smoking as well. In 2009, the FDA banned the sale of flavored cigarettes, but made an exception for mint and menthol. We think this compromise was unfortunate. Another thing we learned is that the tobacco companies market to teenagers and refer to us as replacement smokers. To them, we are supposed to replace the older generation of smokers. We do not want to become replacement smokers. Vaping has become the dominant way that tobacco companies reach teenagers. There are many health risks associated with vaping, such as exposure to chemicals, and people who vape are 4 times more likely to become smokers. This is a major problem in our school and our community. We think this proposed regulation banning the sale of all flavored tobacco products is appropriate and important for you to adopt as the Board of Health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I have a question. How much tobacco is in these so-called tobacco products?
So tobacco products is more of the umbrella. They're referred to as tobacco, but these vape products just contain nicotine. It's just we now see tobacco as tobacco and nicotine.
Do they contain any tobacco?
No, they do not contain any tobacco.
How about tobacco derivatives?
Well, they do contain nicotine and other oils.
Well, nicotine's not a derivative of tobacco. We have nicotine in our own body. But as far as you know, there's no other tobacco product in the vaping, right?
Not in the vapes, but we're looking at all of them, not just the vapes, but flavored cigarettes, cigars, those two.
What would be the problem, I'm sure there is one, but offhand I can't figure it, of just restricting vaping to all places where tobacco's made?
It already is. The smoke-free workplace law
Yeah,
includes vaping.
yeah, but how about all the other places, like the ballparks and beaches and all that stuff, where people can vape but not smoke?
Well, the next topic on our agenda for new business is the public hearing for the smoke-free workplace law,
Yeah,
and that will include vaping.
okay.
So that's something we'll be doing
Let me
next.
Put it a different way, is there any issue or problem with extending vaping to the laws that now govern cigarettes?
They already do,
Okay.
yes, yep. Yep, our regulations talk about nicotine delivery products.
Okay.
That includes traditional cigarettes, cigars, as well as vaping pens and cartridges and any other nicotine-controlled product.
So we're primarily dealing with places where people can smoke, but not vape. Where they can do both, actually.
Well, our concern is that flavored tobacco products, the strawberry and Skittles and candy flavored tobacco products are being targeted to be sold to minors
Oh, yeah.
and
No, I
being,
understand the reason, I'm just trying to figure out what the gestalt is of the problem. You don't want people getting addicted to nicotine.
right.
It's bad for your body, it's bad for your brain. But the question I have, and I'm still not sure I can put it correctly, where would you want people to vape that they couldn't smoke? Anywhere? All right, so all we have to do is add vaping to the list of things that you can't do while smoking. I mean, you can't do it, you can't smoke. right?
We already do that.
Yeah,
We do that.
so
Wait.
what is this? I don't understand what this does.
They want to ban flavored tobacco.
Yeah,
That's-
I understand.
so
But
that's
she
their
says
issue.
it's already done.
No,
No.
it's not.
Vape, oh, go ahead. Vaping, you can vape unflavored nicotine. So you can have,
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's only the flavor that distinguishes it, not.
and that's what's triggering kids to start using. And it gets kids addicted to the nicotine product, and then later on they drop the flavored, but they're still addicted
So
to.
if you didn't have flavored tobacco, it would be,
Kids
you wouldn't
wouldn't,
need any further restrictions, right?
right, kids wouldn't start to begin with. Hope, that's the hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I have a question for this young man. Now, did the administration do anything about the vaping in the bathrooms? I mean, don't they have any policing going on in the schools?
So we have tried to do that. I don't believe we have any direct policing, but I mean, there are teachers who, walk by and they do see that people vape. And there is a consequence for vaping. I don't believe I know exactly, but I do believe it includes a day or two of suspension, but don't quote me on that. You should probably ask the administration. But it definitely is an issue. Because, I mean, I've been in the bathrooms and I've seen it before, and even in classrooms you see it as well. It's not just to the bathrooms.
So the penalty is like a suspension for a day?
I think it's around something like that. I mean, I could definitely let you guys know later on. I could email you if you'd like me to and give you the exact penalty.
So if people are doing it in the classroom, are they being monitored by a teacher?
Well, the thing is that, so it's a very, I don't know if you have seen one, but it's very small. And what people can do is they can put it in their sleeve. And it's not like, you know, a cigarette where you really have that powerful smell. It's more, if there's any smell, it's more perfumey. So if a teacher walks by and, you know, they smoke it right in here so the smoke's not leaving their area, you just think like, oh, someone has perfume or oh, someone has cologne. You don't really realize that it's not as pungent as that's what I'm trying to say.
And to answer your question about how much nicotine is in these pods, one pod of a Juul product has as much nicotine as a whole pack of cigarettes. Yeah, and they do market them towards younger people. They make different cases and skins and things you can put on your device, so you personalize it with, yeah.
So if they're banning flavors, they still have plenty of vaping here and there in secret, right? Essentially.
I think so. I think the goal of restricting the flavored products is to not have kids access the flavored products because they're not available. Yeah. They'll be available in surrounding towns until the state bans them. They'll be available online until someone cracks down on that. It was talked about a few years ago, and the consensus of the board at the time was if you're legally buying tobacco products or nicotine products, should we restrict what flavor you buy? And is it an infringement on a 25-year-old's civil rights to deny them the right to buy a flavored product if it's nationally allowed? I think we likened it to flavored alcohol. So that's a discussion that you will need to have, whether the public health of the children is pitched against the civil rights of adults. So.
And both of our neighbors to the east and the west do allow vaping, right? Dennis and Jeff. Brewster does not, I see, and Yarmouth does not, right?
Everyone allows vaping. It's the flavored that we're talking about.
Oh, I see.
Right. Brewster has restricted it, flavored tobacco sales. I believe Chatham is looking at it right now. I don't know if their board has moved forward. Yarmouth has done it. Wellfleet has done it. Orleans. Provincetown. Even Mashpee. So we wouldn't be the forerunner in this if you choose to go forward with it.
So is it fair to summarize then what we're trying to do is to, by reducing the amount of flavor that people can get, they will reduce the consumption?
Of younger, yes.
Yeah, is that it?
That's it,
That's all it does, right?
right.
Okay.
Mhm.
No further questions?
Is this something you're interested in doing? Is this something you want to pursue?
I think it, I don't know about anybody else. I think it would be-
Yeah, I think the presentation of the kids has had an impact. And I think that when we looked at it before, it was more flavored tobacco that we were talking about, and vaping wasn't popular 2 years ago.
Right.
And it certainly has grown in popularity with the kids, I think, more than the adults. So I'm more encouraged to join that thing.
Mhm. And I think we were hoping the age going from 18 to 21 would curb that younger use as well. And I think statistics are showing that it really hasn't done as much of an impact as we were hoping. So we can look through these regulations now or later. We have some time.
Might as well look at them.
Yeah. So the first part of the regulations that we don't already have is on page 9, where it maximum number of tobacco product sales permits.
So if we did eliminate this, it would go across the board to smoke shops and the convenience store level across the whole entire town. Is
Well-
that similar to what other towns are doing, or are they separated?
They're separating it to adult-only stores.
I see.
So we have, is Fully Baked adult only? I don't know if it is. We don't have any adult-only tobacco shops in
Right.
town, but they do exist on the Cape.
Yeah, kind of be more in line with the liquor stores and so forth.
But with an adult-only shop, you're not allowed to enter it without being of age. So this
Right.
would be 21. Whereas a liquor store, you can go into a liquor store if you're 18. You just can't purchase anything. So you could
Right.
accompany your friend, but
Yeah.
with an adult-only, Store you
everyone's
wouldn't.
21. Yeah.
right, your ID's kind of checked at the door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
None of these regulations covers the so-called parlors, where people can go to smoke cigars and everything like that. I know,
We don't have that in town.
when I lived in California, they were pretty common.
Yeah,
Mm.
they are fun. In the
Now
city,
there's strip malls and things like that.
yeah, hookah bars and so forth. I
Mhm.
think there's a cigar bar behind us.
What would prevent some entrepreneur from starting one of those if he just didn't sell the product?
I think that would go to could be a level of zoning to pass through to start a business like that.
Well, these regulations do define a smoking bar.
What do they call it, smoking bar?
Smoking bar.
Well, it's saying we can maximize the number of tobacco product sales in the town.
These regulations suggest it.
So we could put in that no other stores could sell tobacco products.
Right, so I think we have 10-ish, about 10 tobacco permits in town right now. You could say they're capped, and if one goes out, sort of like liquor licenses, if one goes out of business, that one license comes up for grabs. So you wouldn't have more than the 10. I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it's a big step we have to maybe make stuff up, kind of mirror what the other towns are doing to get a fair home here. Because I think there'll be some pushback from people who try to get spend on this.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Oh,
a big, presence with, when this topic came up a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wonder if some of them don't separate vaping out from the tobacco. it would be good to be on par with others.
Okay.
People feel that way.
Brewster just did it first of the month, right?
What's that?
Brewster just got on board first of the month.
Brewster did,
Right.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So
Then we could see what
how much
Brewster and,
pushback has these other towns had?
The tobacco retailers themselves attend meetings and voice their concerns, but there, as far as I know, there haven't been any lawsuits.
No, I wouldn't expect it, but this just goes back, some of these go back to what, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a presentation by the tobacco
Control program.
control program that had a laundry list, basically wanting to eliminate smoking of everything. And that's when we changed the age.
Mm-hmm.
we got
everything.
a lot of negative feedback, yeah.
Yeah, so we've taken steps along with their lead, and this would be kind of on the same path.
Yeah, I would say so. Makes sense. I mean, basically what you're trying to do is to not start a new generation, like the young man said, to replace the people that are in cancer treatment now.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mhm.
yeah, nicotine is a terrible thing to be addicted to, easily become addicted to it.
Well, it's not only the addiction part of it, but the health part of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you want to leave it, that we find out what the other towns' policies are?
You
And
know what, the question is, how do you, first of all, do we want to do it, and second of all, how do you want to word it?
What do you want to do?
I think that they could, I think there's an opinion that we want to move forward
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
And I think that on the staff level, they can take care of those details and make a
Yeah, that's what I
presentation
would say.
to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 10 minutes to
Go
go.
on board, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
let's do that.
So it'll be on the June agenda with a draft reg.
With a draft. Right.
Yep. And what I'll be adding is basically what's on page 10 of these regulations, which is letter G, sale of flavored tobacco products prohibited. No person shall sell or distribute or cause to be sold or distributed any flavored tobacco product except in smoking bars and adult-only retail tobacco stores.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
We'll have to do a public hearing for that.
Well, we have to look at it, the draft first, I think,
Yeah, I'll present a
right?
draft
And then
first.
July would be good.
And then July would be the public hearing. Right, so you guys will have a chance to look at a draft before we go forward with adoption.
Yeah, it'd be good to get
Yeah.
familiar with it all. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think the public hearing would be
Yeah.
a back and forth.
Yeah, and I think we should notify the retailers of the work session anyway, so they can put their 2 cents in prior to a draft, to going forward.
Yeah. That would
Um,
be fair.
Just trying to be fair, yeah.
Should we ask if anybody in the audience wants to say?
Sure, yeah.
Anybody in the audience want to make any comments? Okay.
Moving on.
Okay.
All right, moving on. So we have a few minutes before 7 o'clock comes. So we could approve permits if you'd like. We have a new stable on 6 Wilma's Way. They are proposing a residential stable. The barn is prefab and being delivered, so it hasn't been inspected yet. So I would suggest approving that with the condition of a final inspection. Makura Excavating LLC is on your list, and if you wouldn't mind holding that, I have a meeting with him to go over his exam results. There were a few that I think he could have done better on. And Dockside Seafood Shack is the snack shack at Saquatucket Harbor. They have applied for a food permit. I've looked at their application and it's complete. We need to do a final inspection there. It's scheduled for Thursday, so that one if you'd hold pending final inspection. And the last new one is the Pleasant Bay Community Boating is offering a recreational camp for children. And they are doing a summer boating camp program. I've met with them several times and they are pending a final inspection as well. Yeah, lots happening in town in May.
Yeah, it's a busy month.
Yeah.
It's picking up. That's good.
Hmm.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to
Sure, I'll make a
pass
motion
permits
that we-
with the,
To accept the permits with the notices.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Permits passed.
Permits.
A few more minutes before 7 o'clock. If you want to go to the very last part of your packet is the Health Director Monthly Report.
Sure.
But not the most, the least important.
Not the least, last but not least. Wastewater update, the contract for, so phase 2, the sewer project was split into 2 contracts for construction. The first contract was finalized and approved by DEP and put out to bid just Wednesday of last week.
And engineering and layout.
Yes, all the design plans, all the specs. So it'll be out to bid, I believe, for 2 weeks and then come back with open bids. And so that's finally moving forward.
Is the stub the place where you would connect
Yes,
a sewer?
the stub, right. Your stub is where it stubs off at the property line. We held a choke saver class for food service people. It was well attended. About 30 people learned choke saving from the Cape Cod Medical Reserve Corps. We met with a prospective owner of a retail market across the street at the old Getty gas station. You've probably seen it in the newspaper that the manager of the Quick Mart next door is looking to purchase and build new retail store on that lot that the Getty station is currently on. I believe it's gone through planning board, or maybe it's on the planning board's agenda.
So it's going to add produce to what sells in the main store?
No, they're going to close that store, and I don't know what it will become, but then open new. Right, it'll be a bigger store with they're proposing a deli, and apartments upstairs. So we met with them, so you may see that coming up for approvals. It's been through historic, but not planning, so we'll see about that. We continue to receive rat complaints. They're in neighborhoods, in backyards. Backyards. No, hopefully not ever, but, and we've received them around some restaurants, which is typical. So we've started a kind of a campaign for food service, a packet of information that Katie's developing to go around and do an assessment and find out what they can do to help eliminate.
I wonder if the mild winter contributed to that.
I believe it did. Yeah. Also in your correspondence packet is a letter from Attorney Tomlinson regarding Perks Coffee. I'm sure you read all that. Was it in the paper? Oh, okay. I'll have to look at that. This attorney was in our office again today looking at our files, so I don't know what their plan is, but just be aware that what you do and say outside of this room is under a microscope. Okay. All right, well, I think it's 7 o'clock now.
Okay.
Okay. So for new business, we have a public hearing, draft amendments to the regulation prohibiting smoking in workplaces and public places to include a ban on smoking on town-owned property, beaches, recreation areas, and other town-operated properties.
Now open the hearing.
So as you remember last month, we had Rec Director Eric Beebe here talking about the Recreation Commission wanting to update their regulations to include a ban on smoking, any type of smoking, whether it's vaping or old school smoking, at beaches and recreational properties like the parks, conservation area, town property. So we talked about it last month, and the consensus was to move ahead with updating our smoke-free workplace law. So in your packet, you have a copy of this. The red is new. Not much was struck out and left out. There's a section of enforcement that was struck out, but moved to a new section called penalties. So what this regulation does is define nicotine delivery product, which wasn't in our original regulation. Defined as any manufactured article or product made wholly or in part of a tobacco substitute or containing nicotine that is expected or intended for human consumption, but not including a product approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration for sales of tobacco use cessation or harm reduction product. Nicotine delivery products shall include, but not be limited to, e-cigarettes. And then we included a new definition of public place: an enclosed indoor area that is open to and used by the public, including but not limited to any building or facility owned or operated by the town of Harwich. Additionally, outdoor locations such as public beaches, recreational parks, athletic fields, school grounds, conservation areas, as well as parking areas associated with these locations. The interior of private vehicles is not considered a public place. Prohibition: smoking is hereby prohibited in all areas defined as public places in Harwich.
That includes all the conservation land, including the trails.
Yes.
Any comments from the audience? Close the hearing, discussion with the board.
I move approval of the, what do you call this thing? Regulation prohibiting smoking in the workplace, as stated.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
passed.
Wow. Making history.
Yeah. I don't know what these people are here.
The second hearing we have is for Smith Barandi for 47 North Road to consider a variance request to install a new Title V septic system prepared by Ryder and Wilcox. Variance from 310 CMR 15.240 to allow a tight tank to be 1,000 gallons where 2,000 gallons is required. Variance request of 1,000 gallons. Minimum setback to allow a proposed tight tank to be 3 feet from a property line where 10 is required. Variance request of 7 feet. To allow a proposed tight tank to be 7.1 feet from a property line where 10 is required. Variance request of 2.9 feet. To allow a proposed tight tank to be 7.9 feet from a foundation where 10 is required. Request 2.1 feet. To allow a proposed tight tank to be 4.5 feet from a water line where 10 is required. Variance request of 5.5 feet. To allow a proposed tight tank to be less than 1 foot above the high groundwater elevation. Variance request of 1.7 feet. To allow a proposed tight tank to be 4 feet from the wetland where 50 is required. Variance request of 46 feet. variances from the Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.210 to allow a proposed tight tank to be 4 feet from the wetland where 50 is required, variance request of 46 feet. To allow a proposed building sewer to be 6 feet from the wetland where 50 is required, variance request of 44 feet.
Thank you. My name is Stephanie Sequin. I'm an engineer with Ryder and Wilcox, and I'm representing Rachel Smith and Allison Ferrandi, who are the owners of the property at 47 North Road. The property is for sale. It has a cesspool, so it has to be upgraded. It's on the Herring River, practically in the Herring River. It's a tiny little cottage that was built in the 50s. There's a bulkhead, a wooden bulkhead that surrounds the building, and then otherwise I just scaled off the plan. It's roughly 1,500 square feet of lot area above the bulkhead, so not a whole lot of room to do anything here. So we've got the resource areas of the river. There is a salt marsh adjacent to it. The timber bulkhead is considered a coastal bank because that is the vertical buffer between the upland and the water. And the whole area is within land subject to coastal storm flowage, the 100-year flood zone. The flood elevation varies between, in some areas it's elevation 11, closer to the river it's elevation 12. The ground elevation here is somewhere around 3. So it's obviously a environmentally sensitive area. What's being proposed here is just a installation of a tight tank. Even with just that one component, there are numerous variances that are required in order to do that, as Megan read. I do want one correction. The variance under Title V for the septic tank to the wetland, Title V requires 25 feet. So it is a 21-foot variance.
Rather than 40.
Not the 46. The 46 is under the local bylaw, but otherwise, quite a few variances that are required. I think the most of them are, I guess, self-explanatory. Setbacks from lot lines and the existing building and the wetland. We just positioned this tank where there, as best we could. But I think what's more important for you to be aware of is Title V requires for a tight tank, the minimum size, it has to provide 500% flow. This is a one-bedroom house at 110 gallons per day. 500% would be 550 gallons. We are proposing a 1,000-gallon tank, so we are meeting that requirement. But it goes on to say that the minimum tank size shall be 2,000 gallons. We simply just don't have the room to spare to put in that, that larger tank. So we are requesting a variance from the requirement to provide a 2,000-gallon minimum tank size. I mean, given the fact that this is just one bedroom, it has really minimal use. The current family uses it only seasonally. It's not heated, so we figured a 1,000-gallon tank would be adequate to serve this building. And then the other variance is Title V requires the bottom of the pipe going into or out of, in this case we only have a pipe going into the tank, that the pipe be at least a foot above the estimated high groundwater elevation. We dug a test hole, measured the groundwater, applied the seasonal adjustment to come up with an estimated seasonal high groundwater, and we're not able to keep the inlet pipe a foot above that estimated high groundwater elevation. It's actually 0.7 of a foot below that elevation, so we're asking for a 1.7-foot variance from that requirement. To offset that variance, we have specified everything we could think of to make this tank watertight, not subject to buoyancy. So we have specified a monolithic poured precast concrete tank, so there is no center seam, eliminating that potential for leakage there. We have specified that it be provided with a waterproof coating on the exterior, and specified that the inlet, the pipe inlet be provided with a cast-in-place rubber boot seal. So again, just everything we could think of to try and make sure that this tank remain watertight and not allow any infiltration or exfiltration. I've included, the Conservation Commission has signed off on this and issued an order of conditions for the installation. I provided with the request for the variance an operation and maintenance plan, which is required under Title V, and it's basically just, you know, requiring annual inspections. And, oh, I forgot to mention, we specified a 24-hour water test for installation to make sure that the tank is watertight.
That's good.
So I think that's it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments from the audience? No? Okay, I close the hearing. Board?
So essentially what you're doing is
Can I
replacing
mention this?
a leaky, uncontrolled
you can mention
pit with a tight tank,
Mhm.
right? I would think there's
On a tight
no-
lot.
Say again?
On a tight lot.
Yeah, yeah. tight
Yeah.
lot. The only thing I'm concerned about is, how's that bulkhead? Does it look as though it's gonna last a while?
I don't have the answer to that. I know
If
that,
that thing collapses, the tight tank is gonna end up in the
Uh-huh.
room. Yeah, that's all I was thinking. But, yeah, that's not your concern, I'm sure. I move to approve the,
Hold on one sec.
say again?
1 sec.
Sure.
I was just wondering, would it be possible to move the water line to 10 feet instead of the 4.5 feet it is presently?
if you look just to the north, or just above where the septic tank is proposed, that's where the shut-off is. And even if we were to reroute the water line into the building, trying to, you know, push it further away from the tank, I think that the starting point is going to be at that shut-off in the street, and there's no way to get that 10 feet away.
Okay.
Okay. I move to
Motion?
approve of the health director's recommendation for this parcel.
And my recommendation are to restrict the property to
Oh, yeah.
maximum of 1 bedroom, which is existing. There's no alteration or additions proposed, and any alterations or increase in habitable space or square footage should come back before you prior to approval. Limited to seasonal use of 6 months per year, restricted with a water shut-off order from the Harwich Water Department. The operation and maintenance agreement, as outlined in your packet, must be in place prior to issuing a disposal works construction permit, and the agreement must indicate a monitoring and pumping schedule and record the approval and conditions at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds.
And is there one of the variances that changed?
Not on her
Oh,
plan.
okay.
Her plan has them listed here. The letter had one
Okay.
mixed up, but the plan was accurate.
Do I hear a motion?
Already stated, want me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
I move that the approval of the health director's recommendations for the parcel at 47.
Second,
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
I have one question or request. This property is for sale. There isn't a buyer at this point. I've gotten a lot of calls from realtors, potential buyers. You may be aware that the home across the street is also for sale. And you, last month, granted the variances necessary for the septic system upgrade, but normally the time frame for installing the system, once the variance has been granted, is like 6 months. Is that correct? Will that still be the case? I was wondering if that could be extended, just because I've heard someone called yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, and said, so the house across the street has 2 bedrooms. This house has 1 bedroom, and they said, gee, what if we eliminated the bedroom in this little cottage? Could we get approval to add a 3rd bedroom in the house across the street? I said, I don't know, but at any rate, if there could be a longer time frame for the installation, just because I really don't know what's going to happen with these properties.
The way
ultimately.
our regulations read is a permit needs to be pulled within 6 months. And then
Okay.
that permit is valid for a year.
Okay,
So you wouldn't need to have this tight tank installed right away, as long as the house wasn't occupied. Because with a failed septic system, you only have 45 days to install. So if they're planning on occupying this house, they'll need to have something in place.
so as it stands, they can't occupy this, even though there has been no sale.
If there's a cesspool and we're aware of it, it's a failed system upon real estate transfer. So within 45 days of transfer,
Okay,
whenever that may be. So within 45 days of transfer, an upgrade's required. With variances, we give you more time because you need to come before us, but you're
Right.
taking care of that ahead of time.
right. Okay, all right, so as long as they've got that extra year, that would be all we can ask for.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next hearing we have is for 576 Route 28 Cumberland Farms, to consider a request to reduce IA testing sampling requirements prepared by Coastal Engineering Company.
Good evening.
Push it a little closer.
John Schneibel, Coastal Engineering, representing Cumberland Farms. Hopefully you've read our letter concerning hopefully reducing the actual testing that we do at the Cumberland Farms. Presently, right now, we test for the nitrogen series and phosphorus. That's got a little hybrid here. Wastewater services test for BOD and TSS. Talking with Cumberland Farms, they're saying, questioning, why are we testing for the nitrogen series when originally, when the place was built, the only reason that they had IA system put in is they were concerned about the longevity of the sewage disposal system. So that's why they had an IA system put in. And as part of that, they didn't realize that there's actually a regulation that you guys have that basically says that also the nitrogen series and phosphorus must also be tested. So they'd like to reduce that portion of it. Again, as part of the IA system for the site, they do have to do test for BOD and TSS. So that part, will continue on, and hopefully we can reduce the nitrogen series. Really isn't, the site itself, there are no, it's not in a watershed. I show the mapping that was shown on the comprehensive wastewater management plan, and it shows that there's no watershed within any of those within this area, and also it's not in a zone 2. The nearest point of any resource area or is actually Nantucket Sound, which is more than 1,000 feet away. So there's really there really isn't necessary, we feel, that we have testing for the nitrogen series and/or phosphorus. Also, the testing we have done shows the system is working very well, and it wasn't really set up for nitrogen reduction. But it does a nice job. The only time that it had a problem was actually when the Zabel filter was clogged, and it was actually, there's a divider wall, and actually it was overflowing the divider wall going into the pump chamber. So that was an issue there. But other than that, you can see by the numbers that we show there that the nitrogen number is very good. It's all under 25, except for that one instance where we had the Zabel filter clogged and overflowed the divider wall. Other than that, so we're looking at, actually reducing the testing, and we hope that the board will look in favor of that.
Okay. We close the hearing. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Discussion? Okay,
No.
recommendation?
So these parameters were due to the IA technology. They put the IA technology on their own. It wasn't something that the Board of Health required. They're below the 2,000 gallons a day threshold, which would require the environmental review. I recommend eliminating the additional testing outside of the DEP parameters.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Okay. Cumberland Farms and I thank you.
Thank you.
The next hearing is for 3 Bluebird Lane, to consider a variance request to install a new Title V septic system prepared by Moran Engineering LLC. Variances from Title V, minimum setbacks to allow a proposed septic tank to be 5 feet from the west property line where 10 is required. Variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the west property line where 10 is required. Variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the north lot line where 10 is required. Variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed pump chamber to be 5 feet from the garage slab where 10 is required. Request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the garage slab where 10 is required. Variance request of 5 feet.
Open the hearing.
Good evening, Dan Croto from Moran Engineering. I'm here with Ed Acton, the new owner, Ed and his wife of number 3 Bluebird Lane. They're putting a lot of work into the house. We submitted the existing floor plans, new floor plans, and then the septic plan. Currently, there's a kitchen and a bathroom in the basement, and there's all of the sewage goes through the basement floor and then to a very deep cesspool, which is bound to be very close to groundwater. As you can see on the first sheet of the septic plan, we're getting everything as far away from the conservation area as possible. Because the owner is redoing the inside of the house, he's able to remove the sewer that goes through the cellar floor, and he's able to come out the wall of the foundation, the typical method. which braises everything up, and then he can go by gravity to a septic tank. We still need a pump chamber because of groundwater, even coming all the way up, because there's such a high groundwater fluctuation in this area. We still has to put in a pump chamber. And then we go to the leaching area, which is not exactly a rectangle, but it gets 5 feet from the lot lines and 100 feet from the vegetated wetland on the edge of the pond. The existing, there still will be 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom in the basement, and that will be on a, that'll be on a pump which will lift it up to the sewer that leaves 3 feet or so below top of foundation. The kitchen will be done away with. It's currently in the basement, or it already may be gone. We did go to conservation and were approved there in April 29th. And so that's, I think with the site, I think we're doing the best we can with Title V technology. So with that, I'll end my discussion.
Okay,
My speech.
close the hearing. Any comments from the board? No? Recommendation?
This property is directly abutting Bucks Pond, and it's also located in a Zone 2. It already has 3 bedrooms, so we would be able to maintain those 3 bedrooms. It's served by a single cesspool, which is within the 50-foot setback of the pond. Renovations are proposed, however, they don't increase the number of bedrooms or habitable space of the dwelling. The septic system proposed is a great improvement over the existing cesspool, and I recommend approval of the variances with the conditions that the property is restricted to 3 bedrooms, no increase in square footage or habitable space without further review by the Board of Health, and that the variances and conditions be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
I hear a motion?
I move the approval of the health director's recommendation.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Ed was here to say, if there were any questions, Ed was here to talk.
Sorry for my attire. I came right from working.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Fixing the house up.
I smell like pine.
It's a good smell.
No problem.
The next hearing is for 321 Lower County Road to consider a request for an extension for upgrade of a failed septic system per Harwich Board of Health Real Estate Regulation Transfer Regulation number 8.
Open the hearing.
Hi, Tom DeModica. I purchased the house from my aunt's estate who passed away a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I didn't realize that I needed to get the system inspected at the time. I thought transferring within family was going to be cleared, wavered, but evidently it's not close enough family for nephew to aunt. So I did some research, and the system is not going to pass as it is. There's not enough offset to the groundwater for the leach pit. I checked the neighbors' new system they put in last year or the year before. I checked their soil testing results, and it's going to be too close. So I intend on replacing the system, but obviously I just can't do it within the 45 days.
Okay. Questions? Go to recommendation.
How soon can you do it?
Well, I can make the soil testing appointment, tomorrow when we check our schedule, and then as far as when the system can be installed, we can get the plans together quickly, but I don't know what the plans are going to be involved, if we need variances or hearings or so forth. So I just didn't want to set a date to be up against, but personally, the house is not occupied. It's rarely been occupied. It's not overflowing or anything like that. It has a system that's operating properly, but it just doesn't have the offset. We do the work ourselves. We're in the septic business at home. I would like to put it off until the fall when we weren't so busy at home, but, you know, if push came to shove, I could do it sooner, but like I said, I'd just rather do it when we had more time.
Your septic installed.
Yes.
Good.
We've been licensed in town previously,
Great.
taken the exam and so forth, and obviously would need to get another license to renew it.
Yep.
And you have an engineering company that you work with as well?
Yeah, my brother does soil evaluation, is an EIT, and we have a engineer that stamps our plans.
Would 6 months be reasonable?
Yeah, that would be fine. I would like, yes, 6 months I think would be fine. That would be November. I would think that would be more than adequate.
You gonna occupy the house this summer?
No, no, I was thinking I was gonna rent it, but it's not ready to rent, if at all, maybe weekends here or there, or someone might come use it for a week here or there, but I was trying to rent it, but I haven't had any interest right now, and there was a lot of work to do before someone can occupy it, so it's not really ready right now anyway.
Recommendations?
I would recommend that the soil and perk testing be completed within the next 30 days, and that design plans, along with the licensed installer application, to be submitted within the next 45 days. Should you need variances, they should be scheduled as soon as possible, with completion of the upgrade within the next 6 months.
That sounds fine.
I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation to the health inspector.
Second?
All in favor?
So I guess I just have one more question about the installer's license, and I think I brought it up before. We did take the test previously. We don't typically renew licenses in towns until we get a job in that town. And the last test, I think, was 1997 was when we took the test. But where it's my own house, I would just like to, if I could present some current licenses that we have to renew the license instead of, it's just hard to get down here to take a half a day to come take a test for however long it takes to renew the license.
Did you take the test?
My brother did, yeah.
And is he on your, he's within your company?
It's a family operation, yes.
The test was taken in 1995.
95.
And when was the last time you held a license in town?
In this town?
Yes.
I thought somebody in your office said 97, but I'm not sure.
97. So it's
It's been a
20
while.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the regulations have changed.
Right.
But ultimately, the installer's test should be reading the plans that are approved, and the I don't know, it's up to you guys.
What do you think? How do we do that?
I would say if he's getting a license with us, he needs to follow the licensing requirements that we give to anyone.
Yeah. Can you do that?
I can, like I said, I was just looking for some kind of leniency, because I'm not here to put in a bunch of systems, I just want to do my own, that's all.
Yeah,
That's-
it's still need that license, though.
Yeah.
That's up to you guys. If you wanted to waive the exam,
I can give you, like I said, current licenses we do every year for decades. 50 years, we've had continuing licenses in towns that we work in every year.
Yep.
But the situation with the health department and the installer's licenses, every town needs so we just don't get them in every town until we have a job there.
I get that.
But towns, if I was a plumber or something, you just do it wherever you want, but
Yep.
where we don't work, it's just economics thing.
Yeah, yeah. Have we done that before?
not that I'm aware of,
Have
but
we been asked to do that before?
I don't think so. Not that I can remember. Yeah. We could, or you could issue a temporary license that lasts,
Just for the
a
one
few
job would be
weeks or
fine.
something, like it-
I'm
you know,
not
if-
looking to be in business down here.
if he applies for a license and knows his system's gonna be installed in October, then this permit, his license could be valid from October 1st to the 31st and then expire, not be valid. We could do something like that, like a temporary. It's more work on our part, but, you know,
Oh,
that's,
we don't have enough work.
I know, there's never enough work. I don't know, it's up to you.
How different is the license, how different is of the license for each town? Like off Cape, I mean, do they differ?
So it's because every town has their own regulations. It's Title V that we need to follow, and then every town has their own regulations that supersede. But I guess my point is, the plans are gonna be submitted and approved,
Yeah.
however they are.
Yeah.
And when it comes to installing, it's just following the plans. And following the plans in one town is the same as following the plans in another town.
We did have one other homeowner in town a couple years ago wanting to install his own, and we did make him take the exam and get a license.
Was he licensed in any other towns, or was it his first effort at it?
I don't know.
It's not a requirement of our license to have some other
Yeah.
licenses.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we need to settle that right now?
If we're not gonna do it for months, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys can decide.
Yeah. You want to bring it back next month? I mean, you don't have to be here, but,
That would be great.
Okay, we go back.
Yeah,
But I don't have to be here.
right, we don't have to be.
That's fine. And in the
Just do a
meantime,
little research on it.
yeah, and figure out if we,
Some way that we're covered, so we're not inundated with everybody.
yeah, no, I completely understand.
Setting a precedent.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
I
there's
think
some-
her recommendation of a 1 week or 2 week license sounded like it would be work for everybody.
yeah, we'll have to look into that, see what other towns have done, or what we
Yeah.
can, how we can
You're
word
in
it, or.
business, I'm sure you could do a good job, it's your house.
I
you do a
would
great
like to
job.
do a good job before.
So we'll work on that,
Okay,
all right?
that'd be great. And this week I'll call and set up the soil testing appointments.
Okay, we do them on Wednesdays. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
The last 3 hearings are applications for extensions of sampling variances for Massachusetts Tier 3 beaches. So we have 3 beaches, Wawatasi, Brooks Road, and Neal Road beaches that are due for a renewal of their sampling variance. This variance allows for monthly testing rather than weekly testing. They are eligible for the extension. They did not have any failed samples last year or the last 5 years. They've passed every sample. The state requires the Board of Health to approve a variance in order for us to take advantage of the monthly sampling.
Have they done these samples yet?
No, we are scheduled to start the week before Memorial Day. Next week, the 21st, I believe, I know, it's the 21st already. So we will be able to have that sample back for Memorial Day weekend. Yeah.
How do they do this, how do they do the samples?
They're grab samples, so the first 2 weeks, the county doesn't do them for us, so our inspector will go out with a sample bottle, weighed up to about knee deep, take a clean sample, not touch the inside of the bottle or the cap, and then put it in a cooler, take the rest of her samples, and then bring it to the Barnstable County lab up at the courthouse. And then it's a 24-hour bacterial test. They put it in the incubator, wait 24 hours to see what grows. Hopefully nothing.
I noticed quite a difference in the sample result of the Wawatasi on one year, a couple years ago. I was wondering, what are the parameters for that? Number of bacteria per what, or?
Yep, the saltwater uses Enterococci as an indicator organism, and anything below 104 colonies per 100 milliliter sample.
So that's what this is?
That's what that is.
Colonies per 100.
Colonies per 100.
It's getting up there, though.
Some of them do, and it really does depend on if it had rained the day before, or if the sampler takes it close to a seaweed pile, or, but luckily, all of our beaches are tidal, and whatever is there today is gone tomorrow.
How often do they do these tests?
The state requires weekly testing unless they have had 3 years of no failures. And then they are able to apply for a variance to go monthly. So we have 9 saltwater beaches, and 6 of them have variances to go monthly, and the other 3 are weekly because they've had a failure in the last couple of years.
Do we move the extension at this time?
You do have to vote on the
Okay.
variances.
I move the extension to be granted by our board for, I don't know how long it is, up to for a year? Or more than a year?
This extension is valid for 4 years.
4 years.
Yes.
Okay, I move that.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You got it.
Great. I don't have anything else for you. What do you want to talk about? It's only 7:40.
Where is that thing tomorrow night?
Where? It's the Mashpee Fire Station, COMM, right?
I thought it was in
Thought it was in Centerville too.
Centerville? Is it in the center?
She's gonna look it up right now. I think it's the one on,
Isn't it the community one?
yep, Calm Fire,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that might be in Centerville. It's right on 28.
Is it on 28? And
Yeah.
so it's on the west end of Hyannis?
You go, no, you have to go past
Go-
Hyannis to Centerville on 28, where the Bell Tower Mall is,
Belltown Mall, okay.
past that. And it's,
So
I think it's,
basically
a-
you're on- basically you're on 28 going, yeah, well.
Yeah.
going towards Falmouth, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a short distance after,
But is it at like a fire station you said?
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's on your left.
So it's on the, so if you go, Belltown Mall will be on your right,
Yeah.
and you keep on going, it'll
Yep.
be on your left.
Right,
Yep.
so there's a set of lights right after the Bell Tower Mall where Stagecoach Road or
Yeah.
Stage,
So it's a fire station?
yes, yeah.
What time is it?
Yeah, that's what I
5:30.
can't remember.
Oh, she deleted. think
We
it's-
have the agenda posted. I had to post an agenda just in case more than 2 of you went. It's on our website. I'll see if I can pull it back up.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my phone over to look at it. I looked at it briefly and I had a hard time figuring out what time it was.
Yeah. So,
Starts at 5.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And because 3 of you are attending, we did post it as a public meeting. You don't have to,
5 to
Do
what
anything.
time?
I believe it's 5 to 8.
So 5 o'clock.
I'll be there, but I don't bet on 5.
I mean,
I said I'll be there, but I won't be there probably at 5. Oh, yes, I will. I'm off. I don't have to worry.
so 5 o'clock, okay.
Yeah.
How long do they usually last?
it's kind of a new thing. I don't know what,
She
a
said
couple,
8.
a couple hours?
5 to 8.
Yeah.
Are they gonna serve dinner?
They'll probably have snacks. So fire stations usually have
So what
snacks.
is it, is it like a group
Of town officials, board members,
of, okay,
yeah. It's like it's a presentation.
an agenda then?
There's an agenda. Yeah, there will be an agenda. Mhm.
Now, who else is going? Who's the
I
third?
don't know.
Are either of you going?
Oh, the Dr. Cushing and Dr. Degala are going, so the 3 of you.
1, 2, 3.
I may or may not be alive tomorrow.
Oh, no.
No, I've got a bug, so I can't guarantee that I'll try.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second turn?
Sorry?
Adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Yes, go.
Well, it's-
When's the